Fox Wild here, and on this episode I am talking about Charlie Kirk and why the man truly is pointless and irrelevant in both life and in his passing. I know it sounds like something cruel to say about someone who was taken the way he was, and you may be thinking, I'm just another liberal. Let me assure you, I'm not another liberal. I believe in the Second Amendment rights, and to me the words, "We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and ensure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America," ring true. They are words I truly believe in. Unfortunately, I believe our country has been taken over by a domestic threat. And with that said, on abortion, my body, my choice, absolutely. However, that baby within you can be a different sex than the mother, a different race than the mother, and a different blood type. And it's attached by an umbilical cord, not unlike if you had a leech on your body. Therefore, the only way it could survive if it was certain blood types and not be attacked by your immune system is because it's not part of your body. So your body, your choice, absolutely. Hands off that baby's body. So, does that convince you I'm not a liberal, even though I look like a hippie and often do smell of patchouli? I walk like John Wayne with the mindset of Ronald Reagan, and I talk like Rush Limbaugh. With that said, let's talk about Charlie Kirk and why the work of his life was absolutely pointless. Why the man himself was irrelevant and he was basically an idiot. A moron at large. Now, saying that, I will back that up with, I agree with a lot of the things he said as far as his debates. It's just what he was doing was absolutely pointless. Now, to fully comprehend and understand that, we need to take a little trip back in time, in my life. Back to the year 1986, when I enrolled in a program so I didn't have to deal with the two seasons of Minnesota, work season and ice fishing season, where I wanted to try and get a permanent full-time job more than just my self-employment and working construction and all this stuff. This was after I got out of the military and before I went to college for robotics and automated systems technology. I went into a program known as the Minnesota Concentrated Employment Program, or Minnesota CEP. And I secured a temporary 3-month job at a Minnesota State Hospital, where the whole part of the program was you work there temporarily for 3 months in hopes that the place would hire you on full-time. And the hospital that I worked at, wanted to hire me full-time. The only problem was there was a hiring freeze. And it was during this time that I met a woman who was nearing her age of retirement. And she was an immigrant to this country from Germany. She grew up in the 30s and 40s and was educated by a group known as the Hitler Youth. And in '86, when I met her, this woman, having been raised in that mindset and by the Nazi Party, still believed to this day that Adolf Hitler was the best thing since sliced bread, that he was a fabulous leader. Despite having been in this country for 4 decades and knowing all the atrocities that happened through World War II, she was still believing that Adolf Hitler was a wonderful man and a fantastic leader. What does that have to do with Charlie Kirk? Well, let's break it down. Back around the same time that World War II ended, we had a lot of manufacturing take off, a lot of new products, and advertisers were trying to get people to buy these new products for these companies such as See the USA in your brand new Chevrolet. And they had these dishwashers and automatic washers and dryers that they wanted people to buy. But, people were pretty much cash on the barrel type of people then. And for those of you in Rio Linda, that means they paid for it when they had it. Companies later came out with means to buy it on time. And again, for those of you in Rio Linda, that means credit. Also at this same period of time, the Democrats, who learned a lot from the Nazi Party, many of whom supported Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party in the Democrat Party, such as the likes of Henry Ford and Walt Disney, along with other notable people who thought he was on the right track. They supported him, and the DNC were big supporters of him. For those of you in Rio Linda, the DNC is the Democratic Party. Now, the Hitler Youth and the way it was set up in Germany never would have worked here in America. Oh, heavens no. But slow and steady wins the race. And the Democrats did try to get women to move out of the home and into the workplace, which is step one, get the mama out of the home so you can take over the kids, right? But the Rosie the Riveter and, hey, you want to have these new appliances and a dishwasher and an automatic washer and dryer and have these things, you can get out and have a career, wasn't working very well. Most women of that age were more happy being June Cleaver than they were being Mary Tyler Moore. For those of you in Rio Linda, June Cleaver was the happy homemaker who stayed home with the children. And Mary Tyler Moore, why, she was the one who could make it on her own. That's Mary throwing her hat in the air, if you remember the show. Google it otherwise. Do you like books that are written from a street level with a moral message in them? That's what you'll find at wattpad.com/foxwild42, where I have the majority of my novels up, and I'm currently posting the Watermelon Brain series, which is a trilogy. Book 1 is going up. It's all written. I'm just posting it now, so I don't even have to write it. I'm just editing and posting it as I go along. That's wattpad.com/foxwild42 for books written from a street level that you can relate to because it's written with a real-life perspective. I'm also posting on inkit.com/foxwild42. I've got the beginning of the Watermelon Brain trilogy that's up. That's the one that I'm posting right now. Book 1 is Servants and Masters. Check it out on either wattpad.com/foxwild42 or inkit.com/foxwild42. And though they tried, the Democratic Party could not get the women to accept what they were selling. Until they finally asked, sometime in the 60s, that infamous question which gave them a battle cry that reverberates today. Will you want your children to have it better than you did? They asked these people who came up through World War II and grew up during that time of rationing and all these hardships that were endured by the people of that time. And they, of course, answered, why, yes, we do. And the Democrats said, do it for the children. For the children, we'll do it. And they did. Women started trying to have a career, and by the 70s, we had the burn your bra women, and the feminists came out, and women were moving into the workplace more and more. And by the 80s, we had problems. Women were complaining that all their hard-earned dollars were now going to other women who were opening daycares in their home to take care of their children while they were at work before they started school. And these women complained enough, and some companies opened up daycares in the businesses. But the government, your friendly Democratic government, came along with a plan. We have a program for you to get you hooked on. You know, like a drug. They were giving out vouchers for women to help pay for their daycare. all while the court systems were being finagled to favor women in divorce. Because they didn't need a man. They had their government and they had their careers. Well, this progressed, and well, there were problems with daycares. Some of them weren't run the greatest, and well, the government, the Democrats, decided we need to regulate these. And they did. And daycare wasn't enough because, well, not enough women were getting out into the workplace, more and more were. But the government came along and had a trial program of preschool. This went very well. And then they added, in addition to preschool, pre-preschool, pre-pre-preschool, and finally pre-pre-pre-preschool. So you could take your little bambino and stick them right in the education system with qualified government teachers to teach your little bambino a government-approved curriculum. And then the Democrats came up with a wondrous thing because of the study of childhood early development by the likes of Dr. Spock and other notable people in early childhood development who very much understood that there's a certain bonding time between mama and her little bambino. And you want these women to bond to the child because then they become willing to do anything for it. You hear their cry, "My children come first." The American Family Leave Act came about, which gives a woman just enough time to bond to her little bambino and then hand it off to a daycare that's government regulated with the proper government-approved curriculum and things that they have to teach a child while they're at daycare. And then once they're old enough, they can go into the 4 years of preschool, where again, they are raised by the government while mama is off having her good life, working her career, going into debt because now they have to have the best iPhone and all these new gizmos and gadgets. And if she gets bored, thanks to the courts, she can go off, get a divorce, and live on happy. So the United States government, now you've got preschool all for 4 years, and then into K through 12, and then thanks to government loans and programs, you can go to college. College is where people are educated in the ways of the woke and the transgender. You know, the same colleges that educate our police force. So now, in our day and age, the government literally sits like a dragon at the loins of a woman, ready to devour her little bambino. And then after these former minds of mush have been properly educated in the Democrat education system through the Department of Education with sensitivity training and all kinds of wonderful things that the Democrats just have to teach your children. They go to college and they run into the likes of Charlie Kirk, who tries to debate them and convince them, pointlessly, because Charlie Kirk is an idiot. He's got a good heart, he's got good intentions, he's just way too late in the game. From the time they enter daycare, through the preschool, the K through 12, they are indoctrinated, just like the Hitler Youth, in how to think and believe. Charlie Kirk stands zero chance of converting these people and talking sense to them. And evidence of this Hitler Youth type of activity is very evident as they wore uniforms and looked pseudo-military, just as groups like Antifa does, while they carry their little toys. Riddle me this: how long until they trade in their toys for real hardware? You know, like what was used to remove Charlie Kirk from the scene. His life was pointless and meaningless, and the man was a fool. And those that followed him were simply the blind following the blind. And y'all fell into a pit. Because you're trying this way too late. You need to get involved earlier. You need to take over your child's education. You're going to need to tighten your belts and do things that are necessary. Maybe you can stop buying those $12 lattes. You don't need to have the latest, greatest iPhone, whatever. You don't have to have a new vehicle. Maybe you can get by on one that's 3 to 5 years old, or even older. A little bit of more maintenance, but do it for the children. Try to get your wife to stay at home. Many women nowadays want to be a stay-at-home mom. And that is what needs to happen. Because you need to be educating your children in the bent they should go. Then, when they are older, they will return to that. Instead of allowing the Democratic Party, through the education system, to do that for you. Yes, it will be hard, especially in this economy, to make it without both women working. But that was, or both spouses working, with women working in addition to their husband. But that was the plan of the Democrats. They knew the economy would adjust, and they could rake in the tax dollars from women working, all under the guise of do it for the children. They took your children from you. What are you going to do about it? Well, we're going to vote for people like Donald Trump. Yeah. History always repeats itself. Once Donald Trump is gone, who are you going to vote for? J.D. Vance, a leopard that changed his spots? Remember Ronald Reagan and George Herbert Walker Bush, who first thing he wanted to do when he got in office was say, we've got to move to the center. Now when you're sitting on the right and you move to the center, guess which direction you're moving? To the left. You can't count on politicians and policy to change it. You have to change it yourselves. You have to become involved and put in the work. That means it's going to hurt. You're going to have to tighten your belts and go through some tough times. Because Mom, you need to stay home with your kids and raise them the way you want them to, instead of the way the government, the Democrats, want to raise them to be loyal to them and their movement. I'm Fox Wild. You can check out my novels on wattpad.com/foxwild42, where I am finishing up the Watermelon Brain Trilogy, Book 1, Servants and Masters. That's soon to be completed. After which, on Wattpad, I will be posting Book 2 of the Protectors series. That will be going up after that. And on inkit.com/foxwild42 also has the Servants and Masters on it, but there I'm going to be putting up a prequel book to the Protectors series. And that's just a single standalone book, and that's titled London's Treasures. It's got an entirely different story behind it. More of a Tales from the Crypt type of thing. And if you'd like to support the Foxy One here on Channel 42, you can do that via PayPal at paypal.me/foxwild42. And if you're a woman not over the age of 21, for those of you in Rio Linda, that's 21 or less, you can check out the video, Date Fox Wild, Hunting a Unicorn, where I lay out my criteria and what I'm looking for in a potential mate. That's all I've got for you today, for you to think about and consider as to why Charlie Kirk truly was irrelevant, because he came too late. And pose the question to you ladies today, and your husbands, what are you willing to do to change this? I'm Fox Wild. Have a good one. Semper Fi, Semper Parentis.